This is Djibouti, a country not that often visited by tourists. Pretty wild in some parts. Still, provided that you have a decent amount of money, you can get to the furthest regions on a comfortable off-road car. This, for example, is Lac Abbe, a rather famous tourist destination by Djiboutian standards, located right on the border with Ethiopia. Often visited by tourists because of its views to very specific limestone towers and gorgeous sunsets. You can easily drive there on a hired car right from the capital, and even stay there in a touristy campsite. But I bet I can take a much less common approach and get as close as possible to the lake on public transport, then just walk the rest of the distance. Djibouti is a small country on the Horn of Africa. You see, a possible plan of getting to Lac Abbe on your own is pretty straightforward. First you get a bus from the capital to Dikil. There you hitch a ride to the furthest village. That could possibly be Ascetic. At this point it is not really clear if it's possible. This can be sorted on a go. And finally the rest of the distance you walk, which should not be more than 50 km. Quite simple, right? So let's go. As I said, I started off in Djibouti city, the capital. In media, Djibouti is promised to soon become new Dubai, become something like an exotic luxury tourist attraction. And indeed there are things to see here. Unique nature, different animals in the wild and all that. But I guess the Dubai plan has not exactly happened yet. Djibouti is still a very poor country, with a very minimal tourist infrastructure. Thus, at this moment, it is one of the world's least visited countries. The first challenge for me is to find a bus. Nobody really knows where it stops. You would probably have to get a taxi and let the driver ask people on the street until somebody can point to the correct place. The bus leaves when it's full, which happens around 9 AM. But you definitely should get there much earlier. I guess tourists do not often move around on public transport, thus it's very cheap. Dikil is where the easy part ends. There is no real public transport going further. Fortunately, I managed to find a car that seemed to be going to Ascetic. Nobody really knows when though. So I will just wait until it leaves. Which is probably gonna happen in about 5 hours. Meanwhile, I get a chance to try a local plant called khat. Khat is local legal drug, which is consumed by just about everyone. It is a plant native to Horn of Africa, which is said to cause excitement, loss of appetite and euphoria. By the evening I get to Ascetic, a home to about 17,000 people, the last village of this size. Also has a school, which kindly offered me a place to stay for a night. Here is the last chance to make sure you've got everything for the hike. From here it's about 40 kilometers to the lake. Of course, water is the most precious resource. I'm not sure I'll be able to get more of it further, so I'll just take enough for the whole way. Generally you have to be careful about packing your backpack. If you forget something, you will not be able to buy it on the way. And I'm carrying a ton of electronics for filming, which means that I have to keep the rest of the kit pretty minimal. Have to be able to lift the bag at all after the water is added. After all, I have to carry it all for 80 kilometers. Ah yeah, I got a liter of coffee from school as well. From now on there are only small villages, mostly comprised of those tiny wooden huts. This area is actually drying out really quickly. Abbe Lake is mostly fed by Awash River on the Ethiopian side. Lately it has been used for irrigation so much that the area of Abbe Lake decreased to less than 2/3 of what it was in 1940. Locals are quite happy to invite me for some rest under the roof. I can't speak any of the languages I know, so to amuse my new hosts, I was showing them photos from my previous travels. Surely enough, they showed me the cool stuff they had in return. After this, there are pretty much no huts anymore. The trip becomes a bit more lonely. With not that many locals around. Only some caravans transporting supplies. I was lucky enough to be invited to spend a night with one of the families on the way. After sunset, the dust settles, opening marvelous views of Milky Way. It is nice to have a good rest. After this, the landscape becomes much more deserty. I will now be walking through the dry part of Abbe Lake. The views are like nothing I've seen before. You actually might be familiar with this place. It was used for some scenes from Planet of the Apes movie. The first one, if you can remember. I can really see why this place has been chosen to portray an apocalyptic sci-fi world. So I finally reached my main goal. The limestone columns. Apart from beautiful sunsets, this place is actually important in some other way. It is in some way considered to be a cradle of evolution of human species. Do you remember we talked about Awash River before? That is exactly where some of the oldest fossils of human predecessors were found. Along with some of the oldest manufactured tools. So there's a fun fact for you.